didn't know woodpeckers can climb. I didn't know woodpeckers could climb. I thought they just flew up there. I think it's more easier to fly.
Thank you for choosing my son. What's going to get you started with today?
You know what? Nothing for me today. Thanks, though.
Okay, have a great day.
You too. Welcome back to the Rabbitat Homestead. My name's Ashley, and today I want to talk to you guys about why raising meat rabbits is better than raising meat chickens. Now, this video is going to be a mixture of my own personal experience with raising meat chickens, and also research that I've done as well. But I'm basically just gonna put it all out there for you and see what you guys think. I've been kind of slow to put out videos lately, and that's because I've been working on something. I'm working on a blog, so for those of you that are interested, I'm going to leave the link down below, but I've written a whole blog post on this topic, and basically I'm just going to put this blog post in video format for you today. So pretty much everything that I'm going to be talking about today is going to be in that blog post, so you can refer back if you would like to. As a concerned and skeptical consumer of our modern day food supply, I, like many other homesteaders, we have done our research and we've learned about how to produce the best quality meat we can for our families. And today I'm going to talk to you from a prepping and control of your own food perspective. So personally, and you most likely agree, the whole reason I want to opt out of the industrial food system is to be more sustainable, more resilient, and to have more control over our food. Now, the benefits of raising meat rabbits far outweighs raising meat chickens for many reasons, so just let me explain. Unlike meat chickens, rabbits can quickly reproduce, which is important, and you do not have to rely on outside sources like you do with chickens. Ordering them from a hatchery, and the most common meat chicken that people raise is the Cornish cross chicken, and you cannot reproduce those chickens. You have to order them from a hatchery. Now, rabbits, they're just easier to process. They're quieter, they have more uses, and rabbits are more sustainable all around, but more specifically with feed efficiency and sourcing. Now, for homesteads looking for a low maintenance and sustainable protein source, rabbits stand out. So a few things that we're going to talk about in this video is why rabbits are more efficient and sustainable for meat production compared to most chickens. And why rabbit meat is more nutritious with higher protein and lower fat content than chicken. Raising meat rabbits is reliable, low maintenance, and a sustainable option for homesteads. Now, this next point is probably the best one, in my opinion, is that rabbits can be bred and raised on site, allowing for a closed loop, self-sufficient system. You don't have to rely on anyone when breeding your rabbits. So with chickens, you have to order the baby chicks from a hatchery. If you're raising egg layers, you can hatch your own egg layers, and you can even do it with meat chickens depending on the breed that you're doing. But most people raise Cornish cross chickens for meat production, and you can't breed those chickens. I mean, they die within a couple weeks if you don't process them when you're supposed to. So raising rabbit meat, you can breed on site. You don't have to rely on anyone. You can keep producing your own breeding stock and your own meat rabbits as well. And another great point is rabbits are easier to process in comparison to chickens, and we'll get into all that. So both raising meat rabbits and raising meat chickens can work for homesteading, but they offer different benefits. I don't have anything against raising chickens. We've done it. We have experience raising meat chickens, and we've done different breeds. We've done the Cornish cross, and we've tried to do heritage breeds before, but we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that here in a minute. But both raising meat rabbits and meat chickens can work for homesteading, but they offer different benefits. Rabbits are easier to care for, they need less work, and you can get meat from them consistently without buying new animals often as compared to chickens. Now, chicken is a more socially accepted meat than meat rabbits, and you can use their meat in many dishes, but keeping chickens needs more specific tools like brooders and heat lamps, as opposed to rabbits, where the does do most of the work raising their young. So when deciding to raise rabbits or chickens for meat on your homestead, there are a few things to consider. Rabbits do not take up much space. You can either house them in a hutch system like I do, or you can raise them in a colony style system. So either way, rabbits and chickens both do not take up much space, which makes them both ideal for small to medium sized scale homesteading. And honestly, people that are living in an urban setting, maybe don't have that much land, maybe have a small backyard, you can get away with raising meat rabbits. They're so quiet. If you had a fence up and people couldn't see into your backyard, they'd probably never know that you had rabbits. Chickens, they're good for small scale homesteading as well, but not so much in an urban setting, because they're louder. I mean, you're probably not going to want to have a rooster, because the rooster will make a lot of noise, and the hens can make a lot of noise as well. You could probably get away with having a couple hens, but like I said, comment down below if you have experience with that. So chickens are usually loved by many, and their meat is well received, obviously. I'm constantly getting comments about, how can you raise meat rabbits? They're so adorable. So I understand that it's hard and it's not as socially accepted as chicken meat is, but it gets easier once you get started. And honestly, I had the same issues when I got started, but over time doing this, I fell in love with it, and it's become my thing. I mean, it was my husband's idea, and we got started with it, and now it's just become something that I've just completely taken over and I manage, and I absolutely love it. Raising the rabbits is a joy, and it's so much more fun than raising meat chickens. The moms do all the work. With chickens, you have to have them in a brooder. You have to use electricity for a heat lamp. They're much more fragile, and require a lot more attention and care, whereas you have baby rabbits where the moms do all the work. They take care of the babies. You get to watch them make their nest box, and they do such a great job. And most of the time you can only hatch chickens out in the spring or summer months. You can't do it in the winter, and I can breed these rabbits all year long if I want to. So it doesn't matter what time of year. I could do it in the middle of winter. It could be snowing. These rabbits could have a litter and they would survive just fine. So that's another great benefit to raising meat rabbits over raising meat chickens. Meat chickens, you can only do it for a small amount of time, whereas meat rabbits, you can do it all year long and be consistently producing meat for your family all year. So chickens are loved by many, and their meat is well received. And if you raise both chickens and rabbits for meat, it provides variety. Like I said, I have nothing against raising meat chickens. I've just found a better way to raise my own meat, so I've opted just to raise meat rabbits. The chickens are also great because they offer great pest control without the use of harmful pesticides being sprayed all over your yard or land. But we have egg layer chickens for this purpose. So we get egg layer chickens every year, raise them up, let them roam free range around the house freely. and they are just great pest control. I'm completely against pesticides and sprays being sprayed on my property. So this is really our investment to protect our home from different bugs. And now deciding on meat rabbits or chickens, it can be kind of a hard decision. There's pluses and minuses to both, but chickens are more desired, but they require a lot more expense and care when raising them, especially when starting out. Chickens are nice because you can supplement their feed with food scraps to cut the cost down. But if you're raising rabbits, they have a more sensitive digestive system than chickens. Chickens can eat more of a variety of things as opposed to rabbits. But with that said, rabbits are more sustainable though, because they do not require grain to feed. Now back to my prepping perspective, this makes me less reliant on buying pellets from stores. So if a supply chain issue happens, I will not be affected when raising my rabbits. I can easily put my meat rabbits on pasture in rabbit tractors, and I can also they can also eat local vegetation and hay and survive just fine. You can grow lettuce all year. You can grow it in the winter, and I grow a ton of lettuce in the spring and summer months for my rabbits. So there's all kinds of different options, and like I said, they can eat lots of different types of vegetation, which helps. All right, so now let's talk about getting started with both rabbits versus chickens. When you think about meat farming, the amount of supplies you'll need up front is important to consider. So let's compare what you'll need to get started with both rabbit and chicken farming. Starting with meat rabbits needs some upfront investment. But the good news is you can use the equipment for many years. And for a good start with meat rabbit housing, you will need hutches or a colony style setup, whichever one that you prefer. I use the hutch system. And this will obviously require lumber and hardware, but don't forget about feeders and water bowls. And you can also start with a more affordable homemade options, lowering your initial cost. So when we first started, we discovered that store-bought nest boxes are just way too expensive. I think one nest box for a rabbit is $30, which was way too expensive. We decided to build our own, which saved us a lot of money. Now we have about 10 nest boxes on hand, and we made them the way we wanted, and we also built our own hutches as well. When it comes to processing rabbits, all you need is a way to dispatch, which can be done with an old broomstick or a hopper popper, which we use the hopper popper method. We actually sell those on Etsy as well. And you need a hanger and a knife. Simple, easy, it requires little setup. Now for those interested in meat chickens, the startup equipment is also important. You'll need a brooder that's safe and warm, like a big plastic tote. You could use a variety of things with a brooder. You could get creative with that. A coop and or a chicken tractor includes a heat lamp, bedding, feeders, and water bottles. And raising meat chickens requires you to have a chicken plucker, a scalding pot with a gas heater underneath, along with other miscellaneous supplies that goes along with processing chickens, adding to the startup cost for raising meat chickens. So raising meat chickens is more expensive than raising rabbits. And just kind of hear me out on this. Jumbo Cornish cross chickens need 14 pounds of feed to reach 6.5 pounds by 8 weeks. Now, this feed costs about roughly $11 to $12 per chicken, making their meat cost around almost $4 per pound. So heritage chickens grow slower and give less meat than meat breeds, even though they are more sustainable. And we'll get into that. I'll be more specific about that here in a minute. Now, just hear me out. I personally feel that if I were to raise Cornish cross chickens for meat like I have before, I might as well just buy my chicken from the store. Now, the Cornish cross breed is a mostly factory farmed animal that is bred for the sole purpose of growing in a short period of time. All of their energy goes to producing body mass rather than its energy going to producing a well-rounded, healthy animal due to different factors. Now just think about it this way. A Cornish cross has no survival instincts and cannot take the stress that a homestead may present like many would be able to in a factory climate controlled setting. They have They also have a high mortality rate, and you cannot reproduce them. So you would have to always rely on getting your stock from an industrialized system, which we're trying to get away from. We're trying to be more self-sustainable, self-reliant in producing our meat. I also want to point out that when you go to the store and you buy chicken, or you go to a restaurant and you order a chicken sandwich, that chicken meat is most likely from the Cornish cross breed. They are the most industrialized, factory farmed breed on the market. That's one reason why I'm not big on raising Cornish cross meat chickens. They're just not a healthy, well-rounded animal. And like I said, my goal is to raise meats from healthy, sustainable animals that aren't going to die after 8 weeks of living. All right, so let's go over the feed and growth costs for meat rabbits and meat chickens in comparison. Now, this is just kind of a overall estimate overall with all of the breeds to think about here, especially with meat rabbits. Now, with my personal meat rabbits, I don't get these exact statistics because I raise a heritage breed rabbit, the silver fox, and they don't bring as much meat as a New Zealand or a Californian rabbit would. So the dress out percentage for meat rabbits is about 60%, and it's 70% for meat chickens. Meat yield per animal, so rabbits is about 3 pounds, which is about what I get. I get about 2.5 pounds for my heritage breed silver foxes. And then meat chickens is about 4.5 pounds per bird. Now, cost per pound of meat, it's about $3 for meat rabbits, and it's just a little bit more, same, about $3, almost $4 for chickens. Now, this is a feed comparison to the average rabbits compared to Cornish cross chickens. Now, the meat yield from rabbits. So rabbits, specifically New Zealand and Californians, can hit about 5 pounds at 8 weeks. And you can get about 3 pounds of meat from them. They dress out to about 60% of their live weight, which is pretty efficient. Like I said, my silver fox rabbits, they're heritage breed. They're not as cost effective as the two breeds I just mentioned. But like I said, not that New Zealanders or Californians aren't healthy meat rabbits, because they are. I just prefer heritage breed rabbits. So commercial meat chickens like the jumbo Cornish crosses, which you all know how I feel about them, they reach about 6.5 pounds by 8 weeks old. And this gives you around 4.5 pounds of meat. But processing chickens is harder. It needs scalding to remove feathers, which is tough and takes time, along with many other things. So the ease of processing rabbits versus chickens. Processing rabbits is much simpler than raising chickens. You only need a sharp knife, a table, a cold water to wash them off. Whereas with chickens, you need multiple people to help make the process smoother, and you need an extensive setup and cleanup after. And I'll show you that here. So let's talk about the difference in the nutritional value compared to meat rabbits versus chicken. So the difference in the nutrition of rabbit meat and chicken meat is clear. Rabbit meat is full of nutrition with the highest digestible protein of any meat, and it has the least amount of fat as well. A 3-ounce serving of rabbit meat is 147 calories, 3 grams of fat, and an amazing 28 grams of protein. On the other hand, diced or chopped up chicken meat has more calories, about 335 calories, and it also has more fat with 19 grams and slightly higher protein. Yet rabbit meat is rich in important vitamins and minerals like iron and vitamin B6. So rabbit meat has fewer calories, less fat than chicken meat, but it offers more protein and essential nutrients, and this makes it, in my opinion, a top pick for those wanting a healthy, low-fat meat. Now, all around, why meat rabbits are better than chickens. Rabbits are a better choice than chickens for sustainable meat. Meat chickens, being hybrids, can't breed. They depend on us to make more. And on the other hand, rabbits are natural breeders. A pair of rabbits can yield a lot more meat each year for 3 to 5 years. This makes a closed herd system possible, and in this system, the risk of disease is lower, plus you save money by not constantly buying new animals like you would with meat chickens. Rabbits have a distinct advantage over chickens when it comes to sustainable breeding and reproduction. Now, rabbits have a lower mortality rate than chickens. Rabbits beat out chickens in several areas. So chickens for meat purposes can lose between 10 to 25%. Yet rabbits often have almost no deaths in their young. So rabbits have a lower mortality rate than chickens as well. Now, if you've been following along with me, I've been sharing with you the ups and downs of raising meat rabbits, and you've seen me lose rabbits here and there. It does happen. So rabbits beat out chickens in survival rates. When you have chickens for meat purposes, you can lose between 10 to 25% of them. Yet rabbits often have almost no deaths in their young, and this is because rabbits are quite tough. They do well in clean places and with good food and water, and this low death rate means that you get more meat with fewer losses. So rabbits have a significantly lower mortality rate than chickens do, meat chickens, and I'll go into that more specifically here in a few minutes. But let's talk about the feed efficiency and conversion rates. So rabbits excel when it comes to turning feed into meat. It takes about 3 pounds of feed to create 1 pound of rabbit meat, which we've gone over. And in comparison, it takes 2.5 to 2 pounds of feed per 1 pound of chicken meat. What's great is rabbits can eat a variety of foods. They can turn things like grass and garden scraps into top quality protein. And this also makes them even more efficient and sustainable. Rabbits have one of the best feed to meat conversion ratios. Now let's talk about different settings that you can raise these animals in. Rabbits are better than chickens for those living in cities or suburbs. Rabbits can be kept in small spaces and can be kept in hutches as well, just like I keep them. On the other hand, chickens need a lot of room for roaming. They're roaming animals. This can be hard to find in a small backyard. Now, rabbits are perfect if you don't have a big area. They can live in a small hutch. This means you can keep them in your backyard or on your patio even. Chickens in comparison need more space, something small areas often lack. Quail are also a very good animal to raise on a small backyard homestead as well. Rabbits are very quiet. They might make noise if they're scared, but it's kind of rare. I don't know if you've ever heard a rabbit scream before, but they do it on rare occasions. But chickens, on the other hand, they are loud. They cluck often, the roosters crow, and in tight location, this noise can be too much. So rabbits are a better option for a quiet homestead, and you can have rabbits and no one would ever even know that you had them. So rabbits and chickens both create waste, obviously, but rabbit waste smells less and it's easier to manage. With regular cleanup, it's not a big issue. But chicken coops, they smell stronger and need more cleaning, and this makes keeping your space pleasant a little harder. Let's face it, chicken poop is runny and gross, but rabbit poop is the complete opposite. Rabbits and chickens produce great fertilizer for gardens. I load up my gardens with rabbit fertilizer. Chicken fertilizer has to sit for a year and be composted before you can put it directly on your garden. Whereas my rabbit fertilizer can just be added to the garden right away, which is really nice. So using rabbit meat is good for the environment and it makes you less dependent on others. And you can grow almost all their food yourself if you really needed to. This keeps things running smoothly even if there are problems with getting food from stores, making you not as reliant on that system. Meat chickens need a lot of pellets and you always have to rely on a hatchery. Plus you have to care for the chicks daily until they are old enough to go outside, whereas rabbits do not require any extra supplies to reproduce and they do all of the work for you. This makes chickens harder to take care of in comparison to rabbits. So let me just say, eating rabbit meat is a big step toward being independent. It makes your home more stronger, more resilient, and more self-sustainable. So raise meat rabbits. So this is a huge reason why I always tell people they should raise meat rabbits, because who doesn't want to be more independent make your home stronger, more resilient, more sustainable. And not only that, but one of the things I love about raising our own food and our own meat animals is that my son gets to see it. He gets to be a part of it. He gets to learn these things. So one day when he's older and grown up, he has these skills under his belt, and he's not just relying on the grocery stores. I think it makes him more of a productive person in his adult life. So another reason that I think it's important to raise your own food. So as we come to the end, raising meat rabbits is a better choice for many homesteaders than chickens. Rabbits cost less to start and maintain. They eat less food but produce more meat. Rabbits are easier to handle than chickens. Their meat is also healthier. And if you live in a city or a suburb, rabbits are more practical. They need less space, are quiet, and they don't smell as bad. Let's face it. Rabbits beat chickens in both green and self-reliant points. You can breed and keep them all at home. This reduces the need for relying on outside sources. And those serious about providing their own meat, raising meat rabbits is an excellent choice. Choosing between rabbits and chickens means looking at your space, money, and what you like. But rabbits come out on top for several reasons, and for a steady protein source, seeking a sustainable and self-sufficient source of protein with rabbits is a great idea. All right, so I go into much more depth in my blog post about all of this information. It's all laid out there for you if you'd like to go check it out. I'll leave a link to it down below. But like I said, you know, going back to the comparison of raising meat chickens and meat rabbits, meat chickens, the most cost-efficient breed that you could raise for raising meat chickens is the Cornish cross breed. But like I said, they're not as efficient in a way that you can easily lose a lot of them. Like I said, the Cornish cross breed is the most commonly raised animal for meat production in the industrialized food system. They're raised in these big warehouses where they never see sunlight, and they die quickly. They are specifically bred just to grow meat. So overall, as a chicken, they're not a healthy, well-rounded chicken because all of their energy goes into producing meat rather than to other vital things that help produce a well-rounded chicken. So they won't live longer than 8 or 12 weeks. That's why you have to process them so soon. So they're a fast-growing chicken, which in my opinion, I'd prefer not to. So that's the type of chicken you're going to be buying from the grocery store. That's the kind of chicken that's going to be served to you at restaurants. And sure, you could if you raise Cornish crosses on your homestead, they are healthier than the Cornish cross meat chickens that you get from those other places. But they're not as resilient on a homestead, because when they're raised in these big buildings, never seeing sunlight, they're not exposed to really any stress. They have their feed brought to them. They don't really need to move around that much. They don't get scared from predators. They don't really have any environmental factors. So they are easy. So it's easier to raise Cornish crosses in that industrialized setting. Whereas when you bring Cornish crosses onto a homestead, you're more likely to have more chickens die when you raise them in your homestead setting, because they are exposed to the inclements, the weather. They're exposed to being afraid from maybe a fox or a raccoon or a coyote, all of those things. There's just a lot more stresses that a homestead offers that Cornish crosses can't really handle as well as other meat chickens. So I just wanted to point that out. And also this video, statistics were based off of, in comparison to the Cornish cross chicken. And for the meat rabbits, it was basically just kind of an overall comparison between all of the meat rabbits, but the best most efficient rabbit breeds you could get is probably the New Zealand and the Californian. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with those meat breeds. I would raise them myself, but I personally just like raising the heritage breed rabbits. I'm very big on heritage breed animals. But if that's what you're raising, that's great. You probably get more meat from your rabbits than I do, because when it's all said and done and my rabbits are all dressed out and I have meat, I usually get about 2.5 pounds instead of 3. Whereas you guys that raise the other breeds probably get 3 pounds of meat. But like I said, it all depends on what you're looking for on your homestead when you're raising your own meat. Some people might completely disagree with me on my opinions with raising Cornish crosses, and that's okay, obviously. I'm just sharing, this is my channel, so I'm just sharing my thoughts and how I view things. That way you, as a viewer, know where I'm coming from, and I can more effectively share my experiences and my thoughts with you. So, all right guys, so I hope that I have convinced you that raising meat rabbits is better, because it is. There's just so many aspects that are better, and we've gone through all of it, but most of all, processing's easier, reproducing them is easier, just there's so many benefits. And not only that, but raising rabbits, it's so much more fun. They're cleaner, it's more fun, they're cuter, they're cleaner, and they're adorable. I mean, who doesn't love raising adorable little rabbits? And whereas, chickens are different. They're in a brooder, they require a lot of care. Moms take care of the baby rabbits, and it's just so much more of a joy, which I think is why I've taken so much to raising them. And just think of it, it's one bad day. You get to have your rabbits as breeders. The breeders are your pets. You get to enjoy the kits while they're little and take care of them, give them the best life that you can, and then it's one bad day, one bad processing day. I don't enjoy it. It's not fun. Yes, they are cute and it is very hard, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I have a lot of meat for my family, that healthy meat for my family that they can eat, and I can feel good about it, knowing that they're eating healthy food that's not coming from the grocery store or that industrial food system that I am skeptical about. Anyways guys, I hope this video was helpful to you. Leave a comment down below on what you think, and I will see you guys in the next video. God bless.